If you've been scrolling through endless firewall options and still feel stuck, this review is for you. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I'm going to walk you through why the FortiGate 30G might finally make sense for a small office, a remote branch, or a serious home lab setup. First off, let's talk about the hesitation most buyers feel. You're probably wondering whether a single-box solution can actually replace a handful of separate devices: router, firewall, SD-WAN edge, maybe even a Wi-Fi controller. The risk of overpaying for features you'll never use, or worse, buying a device that can't keep up with your traffic spikes, is real. That's why I spent a few days mapping out a typical small business network and then tried to imagine how the 30G would fit into it. The FortiGate 30G is marketed as an all-in-one appliance that packs firewalling, SD-WAN, and a Wi-Fi controller into a compact, fanless chassis. The hardware itself is built around Fortinet's proprietary security processor, which promises to offload inspection tasks that would otherwise chew up CPU cycles on a generic x86 box. In practice, that means you get decent throughput for a device that only has 4 gigabit Ethernet ports, 1 dedicated WAN and 3 LAN ports you can use for internal devices or uplink to a switch. Let's start with a real-world scenario: a boutique marketing agency with 10 employees, a handful of laptops, a couple of VoIP phones, and a small conference room that needs reliable Wi-Fi for presentations. The agency already has a separate router from their ISP, but they've been dealing with occasional malware alerts and a confusing tangle of VPN connections for remote staff. Plugging the FortiGate 30G between the ISP router and the office switch gives you a clear point of control. The built-in firewall policies let you slice traffic by application, so you can block risky peer-to-peer traffic while still allowing the SaaS tools the team needs. The SD-WAN feature, although limited to a single WAN port, can be leveraged to create link aggregation with the ISP's dual WAN if you have a compatible modem, giving you some redundancy without buying an extra edge device. Now, the strengths become clearer. The user-friendly management console is probably the biggest win for folks who aren't network engineers. FortiOS's web UI walks you through creating policies with drag and drop, and the dashboards give you instant visibility into which apps are consuming bandwidth. For a small team, that eliminates the need to hire a dedicated security admin just to keep an eye on logs. The 3-year FortiGuard Enterprise Protection subscription that comes bundled is another hidden value. It delivers continuous IPS signatures, web filtering, and anti-malware updates, which you would otherwise have to purchase separately. Over 3 years, that alone can run a few $100s, so the bundle feels like a genuine cost saving. The compact, fanless design also matters if you're dealing with a cramped server closet or a closet-sized home office. No noisy fans mean you can mount it on a wall shelf without worrying about a constant hum. The 4 RJ45 ports keep wiring simple, no need for an extra switch just to get enough LAN ports for a few desktops and a printer. But there are trade-offs you need to weigh. The 30G's throughput ceiling is modest compared to Fortinet's larger models. If you start pushing more than a couple of 100 megabits of traffic, say you add a 4K video conferencing room, or you run a local file server with heavy backup windows, you'll notice the firewall starting to throttle. The device doesn't have any modular expansion, you're stuck with those 4 ports, so you'll need an external switch for any growth beyond a handful of wired devices. And while the Wi-Fi controller is included in the firmware, the hardware itself doesn't have any built-in radios. You'll still need separate access points, which means you have to manage another piece of equipment if you want wireless coverage. Another practical limitation shows up when you think about remote access. The built-in VPN works fine for a few concurrent users, but if you have a traveling sales team that needs robust, always-in connections, you might run into session caps. The device's licensing model is fairly straightforward for the 3-year bundle, but if you ever want to add additional features like advanced sandboxing or higher-grade intrusion prevention, you'll have to purchase separate add-ons, and those can get pricey. Who should buy this thing? If you run a small office, under 20 users, a remote branch with a single ISP connection, or you're a hobbyist setting up a home lab that wants real-world firewall experience, the FortiGate 30G checks a lot of boxes. It's especially appealing if you lack the time or expertise to stitch together multiple appliances, because the integrated console and bundled security updates let you get decent protection up and running in a day. The 3-year subscription also means you won't have to chase down renewals every few months, which is a nice psychological relief. Who should skip it? If your network already exceeds a few hundred megabits of sustained traffic, or you anticipate needing more than 3 WAN connections, you'll outgrow the 30G.